Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for being here, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Today was a pretty chill day. I think I just recovered from a vacation. I just did some lawn work and worked on my business, and it was a pretty good day. And today's Tuesday, so if you go to a movie theater, it's like $5 for a movie. So I think I might go see a movie afterwards. There's this one movie called Beast, which has got Idris Elba in it, and it's about like a killer lion in Africa. I love killer lions, killer animals. There's another movie with Idris Elba called like 1,000 Years of Desire or something. But that one, Idris Elba plays a genie or a jinn. The type that grants you wishes, like the Middle Eastern jinn. So that's got some paranormal stuff in it. So I'll probably watch either one of those movies. But before that, we're going to talk about this paper that this paper's been on my radar for a while. I've never read it. This is my first time reading it, but I think I first found out about this paper from Dr. Jeffrey Mishlov, who's got a channel on YouTube called and a website called Thinking Aloud. And he's a parapsychologist. Hey, Belinda, thank you for being here. Hey, Tina, as well. Dr. Jeffrey Mishlov, I think he still might be he's definitely the first person, but he still might be the only person to get a PhD in parapsychology. And he got it in a California university. I think it might be Berkeley. But anyway, Dr. Jeffrey Mishlov mentioned this research paper, which came out in 2018. And he said it showed experimental evidence of parapsychological behavior or, psychic phenomenon. And it's from a legitimate journal. So I was always very curious by it. And I pulled it up already. Like always, that link is in the description, so you could read along. Also, I made my cursor really big, so you guys will see, so that I could kind of follow the words like JP Adventures wanted. And I guess that's it. That's all I got to say before I start reading the paper. But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Thank you for watching this. If you're watching this in the future, let's go ahead and hop into the paper. And let's see what it's all about. Okay, so as always, I need to share my screen. Hope everybody's having a good day today. Let's see, I think we have a holiday weekend coming up, Labor Day in America. That'll be good. All right, share screen. Click this button. All right. And then I have to click one more button. I'm thinking about doing streaming on Thursdays as well. And on Thursdays, I think I might just play video games. And then we could just talk. You guys could just ask me any question, and we could just we could talk about any subject, really. It doesn't have to be paranormal. It doesn't even have to be about science. But I think on Thursdays at the same time at 8, I might start streaming some video games. And I think that'll just be fun. Plus, I want an excuse to play video games. I'm so busy. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this paper up. So the screen is up. And put this here. All right, cool. Put on my reading glasses. Normally don't wear my glasses on stream because I think it causes a really bad glare. It just looks funny. But yeah. Okay, screen is being shared. Let's go to this paper. Okay, so you guys should be able to see the paper. You should be able to see my huge cursor. It's got a little tail on it. I did that so it's easier to follow. All right, so the first thing I want to do is, let's look at the journal, okay? So it is the American Psychological Association. So let's go ahead and just read a little bit about this association. So I'm just going to Google. So well, I always like to look at the journal first. Who is publishing this paper? That'll tell you a lot about the paper's contents. But over here in a corner, it says, here's a website straight from itself. So the American Psychological Association, it has a website called apa.org. And let's see what it has to say. It looks like this is from Wikipedia. It looks like it's been around since July of 1892. It's been around for a while. Okay. So, make this a little bit smaller. Okay. The American Psychological Association is the largest scientific and professional organization of psychologists in the United States with over 133,000 members, including scientists, educators, clinicians, consultants, and students. It has 54 divisions, interest groups for different subspecialties of psychology or topical areas. The APA has an annual budget of around $115 million. All right. Let's see. What else can we see here? Well, like we saw earlier, it's been around for a while. So I believe it's a legitimate journal. Yeah, here we go. So it was founded by G. Stanley Hall in July of 1892 at Clark University, Worcester, Massachusetts, I believe. Headquarters in Washington, D.C. The current president is Frank C. Worrell. And what's the code? Okay, they have a code of ethics. The code of ethics is composed of key principles of ethical standards. The principles are intended to guide to help inspire psychologists as they work in their profession, whether they are working in mental health and research or in business. Great. Okay, I'm just showing you this to show you that, hey, this is we're about to read this journal, and it seems like a very legitimate journal, well respected, everything above board. And what else do we see here? So this particular article was published in July. I'm sorry, not July, in 2018. So not that old. And yeah, the title of it is the experimental evidence for parapsychological phenomenon, a review. And the author is Edsel Cardenia at Lund University. All right. Once again, we're going to start off by reading the abstract, which is the summary of the entire paper. It doesn't go into great detail, but it will give us a good summary. Okay. So this article presents a comprehensive integration of current experimental evidence and theories about so-called parapsychological phenomenon. So yeah, what it's saying is that they're going to give us kind of like a summary. This author's going to try to include all the current experimental evidence and theories or possible explanations for so-called parapsychological or psi phenomenon. I think they're using the word so-called because, we don't have a really hard grasp on what is parapsychology. It's still kind of up in the air. It's not like zoology or microscopy. These other scientists like chemistry that have been around for so long, we have a really good understanding. Parapsychological phenomenon and the study of that phenomenon is still very much in its infancy. Throughout history, people have reported events that seem to violate the common sense view of space and time. Oh, boy, do they ever do that. Excuse me. Some psychologists have been at the forefront of investigating these phenomenon with sophisticated research protocols and theory, while others have devoted much of their careers to criticizing the field. Both stances can be explained by psychologists' expertise on relevant processes, such as perception, memory, belief, and consciousness, and non-conscious processes. Okay. So basically, psychologists are, a lot of psychologists are either on the side of criticizing this field, like there's nothing to it, and others are studying it and they believe there's something to it. But both of these types of psychologists, they basically use these ideas of perception or how we take in the world. Perception is how we hear the world, how we see the world, how we touch the world. Memory, of course, is what we can recall. Belief is our personal thoughts. Consciousness is what we think about when we're awake. And unconscious is what's not actively thought about. It could be on the back of our mind or perhaps when we're sleeping. So these are the kind of topics that psychologists use when they're trying to explain parapsychological behavior, whether it's trying to criticize it as not a real thing or trying to show that there might be something to it. This article clarifies the domain of psi, summarizes recent theories. This is what I'm interested in. Summarizes recent theories from physics and psychology that present psi phenomenon as at least plausible. So why I like this is basically what they're saying is that in this paper, they're going to talk about how science, like physics and psychology, how they can try to tell us what's going on with psi behavior. Like what's going on under the engine. What is the mechanism for it? We all know, using the engine example, we all know that if you get in your car and you turn a key, the engine is going to work and it's going to take you where you need to go. So that's cool to know that. But wouldn't it be cool for someone to explain to you, well, how does that engine work? How does the fuel ignite? How does the piston in the engine make the wheels turn around? Like, we want to know what's actually going on. And so in this paper, they're going to try to explain, like, okay, if psi phenomena is real, well, how does it work? What is actually happening to make it work? And that's what's interesting to me. And then provides an overview of recent and updated meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is when you take a bunch of other studies that have been done on a similar subject. Like in this case, I know there's been a lot of laboratory experiments done on psychic abilities. And so when you take all of those individual separate experiments and analyses and you combine them as one big analysis, that's a meta-analysis. And, that has a lot of power to it. And that's what they're going to do in this paper. The evidence provides cumulative support for the reality of psi. Okay, so they're saying that the evidence that can be found by these experiments, it provides cumulative. Cumulative means it builds on top of each other. Support for the reality of psi. So it's saying that, there's evidence out there that builds on top of itself that shows that psi phenomenon is real. That's pretty crazy, especially from this journal, which cannot be readily explained away by the quality of the studies, fraud, selective reporting, experimental or analytical incompetence. I love nothing like experimental or analytical incompetence, or other frequent criticism. So in this sentence, they're saying that, all the evidence is going to be shown. It supports the reality of psi. And this evidence cannot be explained away by the quality of the study. So the critics, the skeptics, they can't say, they can, but it's not going to be very strong. They can't say, all the studies you're looking at are bad. They're not high quality, okay? They can't say there was fraud or somebody was faking it. They can't say there was selective reporting or this is cherry picking, or so somebody can do an experiment and they only take some of the information they get and not some of it. That's what selective reporting is, and that's bad. They're saying that is not taking place here. And then this is funny, experimental or an analytical incompetence. That means that you don't know how to run a good experiment. You don't know how to conduct an experiment. If anybody here likes to cook, okay, anybody here likes to bake, or they like to go in the kitchen and they like to cook, I got news for you. According, in my view, you're a scientist, okay? Because in my view, the kitchen is a laboratory, okay? You're dealing with chemicals, you're dealing with measurements, you're dealing with dangerous equipment like open flames and ovens and hot burners, and there's steps you have to follow to get your intended results. So what I'm trying to say is that when you conduct an experiment, it's a lot like cooking or baking. And so that can be done poorly. You could be incompetent at baking or cooking because you could not know what the hell you're doing. You don't know how to use a measuring spoon. You don't know how to use the oven. You're using the wrong ingredients. So they're saying that the experiments used to show the psi, they were done well. They weren't done incompetent. And then analytical means how do you analyze or look at the information that you get? Because you get all this information, but then you have to be able to read it correctly. They're saying that was done well. It was not done with incompetence. and other frequent criticisms. Okay. The evidence for psi is comparable to that for established phenomenon in psychology and other disciplines, although there is no consensual understanding of them. Interesting. All right, the evidence. So they're saying there's a lot of evidence out there. It's strong evidence, but yet we don't really understand what's going on. That's how I interpret that. The article concludes. So this article we're about to read. With recommendations for further progress in the field, including the use of projects and data repositories. So yeah, a lot of research papers at the end, what they do, some of them that we've read here on this webpage, on this YouTube page, have done this. A good research experiment will show you what it was done, but at the very end, they'll also tell you, like, this is where we should go next. They don't leave you hanging. They tell you, what can we do to push this forward? Keep it going. And so they're saying that we could further progress the field by using project and data repository. So they're saying that a repository is a collection of something. So they're saying there's collections out there of projects that have already been done and information that has already been collected on psi experiments. So they're saying we can move forward by using these collections. Also by conducting multidisciplinary studies with enough power. So multidisciplinary means a lot of different fields. So a multidisciplinary study could be like you're doing a research study that involves, medicine, it involves biology, physics, mechanical engineering, sociology. So they're saying, yeah, we should, and multidisciplinary studies are very good. And then they're saying with enough power. By power, they mean you have really, the way I interpret with enough power, they're talking about you have enough information. You have strong, solid information, okay? Developing further non-conscious measures of psi and falsifiable theories. Okay, so they're saying in the future we should also develop further non-conscious measures of psi. So they're saying, I guess there's ways of measuring psi ability, but that is unconscious. So that, I guess, well, we'll have to read and see what they mean by that, but that's interesting. And falsifiable theories. Once again, I really think if you guys are going to learn one thing from this whole channel, is to learn that there's two components of science. In order to have science, you need to have repeatability, which is the ability to repeat a claim. So if I discover something and I tell you how I discovered it, someone else has to be able to also do it. If someone else is not able to repeat it, then you don't have a scientific idea because you can't repeat it. You have to be able to repeat something. That's not a bad thing. That's really good. You want your car to start all the time. Every time you go out and you turn on your car and you're ready to go to the store, you're ready to go to work, you're ready to go to a concert, you want repeatability in your car starting. And that's good. You don't want your car to start like 1 out of every 50 times. That would be terrible. So you need repeatability, but the other thing you need is falsifiability. So you need the ability to prove something is wrong, not the ability to prove something right. So right here they're saying we need to come up with more falsifiable theories. We need to come up with more explanations for psi ability that can be proven wrong. Okay. Analyzing the characteristics of successful sessions and participants. Okay, so they're saying this is interesting. So they're saying we need to be able in the future to be able to find out what are the characteristics of a successful session and participants. So basically they're saying, there are times in the laboratory when they successfully get a session where somebody is showing positive psi abilities. And there also have participants or humans who have these psi abilities. So they're saying we need to be able to analyze what are the characteristics, like what makes a good session. Perhaps is it because the person is calm? Is it because the laboratory is dark? Is it because the laboratory is peaceful? Is it because we're doing the experiment at night? Is it because the person is full? Or is it because they're hungry? And what kind of person is a good participant? Is it someone who's young? Is it someone who's old? Is it someone who's had a trauma? Is it someone who's happy? Is it someone who's depressed? So they're saying, like, let's find out why people have good sessions. What makes people have good psi sessions? And what makes a person good at having psi abilities? Okay, improving the ecological validity of the studies. All right, well, this is interesting. Now, ecology is a biological term. I love ecology. Ecology means, the way I describe it, is a summary of everything living and non-living in an area. Okay, so let's say a regular biological study, you would say, okay, I'm in this pond and I'm looking at all the frogs. And you're like, okay, that's a biological study. If you want to do an ecological study, you're not just looking at the living things, you're looking at the non-living things. So now, instead of saying, I'm going to go look at this pond and I'm going to look at all the frogs, you're saying, I'm going to look at the frogs, but I'm also going to look at the temperature of the water. I'm going to look at how salty the water is. I'm going to look at the wind. I'm going to look at the soil. You take all of these living and non-living things, that's ecology. And so they're saying you want to improve the ecological validity of the studies. All right. I'm a little stumped on what they mean by ecological validity. I mean, validity means that it's good and it's real. Ecological means a combination of everything. I guess they're just trying to say that, like, they want to take a big look at the whole picture, of this person having psi ability, and they want to look at everything as a whole and show that it is real, that the study is real. I think that's what they're saying. Testing how to increase effect sizes. Okay. So in the future, they recommend they look at how we could look at the effect size, means like how much psi ability is going on. Is it a little bit of psi ability or is it a large amount of psi ability? And they're saying they want to be able to increase the effect size. They want to be able to, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, if you're testing psi ability in a lab, you want to be able to have a larger psi ability, psi phenomenon. That makes sense. Recruiting more researchers, at least upon the possibility, at least open to the possibility of psi. This is a big one. So yeah, I mean, right now there's a lot of psychologists out there and scientists who are researching, but I'm not sure what percentage. Is probably very low. The percentage of those scientists that are open to the possibility of psi. So they're saying we need to, in the future, get more scientists, convince them basically that we need to get more scientists that are at least open to the idea that psi ability is real, instead of scientists that are just like flat out saying, no, there's nothing to it. I have nothing to do with it. That's what they're saying. And situating psi phenomenon with larger domains, such as the study of consciousness. Okay. And so here, the last thing they're saying is they recommend in the future that we put the study of psi phenomenon, or psychic abilities, into something that's larger, like a larger type of study, which is the study of consciousness, which, as far as I understand, we really don't understand consciousness very well. But they're saying, like, hey, I think what this author is saying is, like, I think psi phenomenon and consciousness are probably related, and we need to start studying them together. There we go. That's a pretty exciting abstract. I got to say, I like the way the author writes. It is technical, but it's fun to read, and I understood it pretty well, and hopefully I did a good job of explaining it to you guys. Let's check the comments real fast. I see Scotty's here. Hey, Scotty. Let me, what am I doing here? Do this. Okay. Oh, I got my glasses on. See, this is what happens. You get this weird thing unless I go like this. All right, let's look on comments. That was the abstract, and we went over the journal. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so Melinda, thank you for being here, Melinda. I did get your email today. I'm still catching up on my work from the vacation, but I will get to you. And thank you for emailing me. I do appreciate your emails. So Melinda pipes in and says, Lund University is in Lund, Sweden, and is founded in 1666. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, man, I'd love to go to Europe. Everything's so old in Europe. I mean, compared to America. But yeah, it sounds like a really good university. That's where the author is from. Once again, hey, Scotty, thank you for being here, buddy. Scotty says, hey, what's up, trees, Melinda? Hey, I'm doing great. I'm going to go watch a movie after this. I might go watch this Idris Elba movie that's got Tilda Swinton, and Idris Elba plays a genie or a jinn that grants wishes. Or I might go watch another Idris Elba movie where he goes to Africa with his daughters and there's a killer lion on the loose. So I'm excited for that. And then everybody's saying hi. Melinda's saying hi to Scotty. Thank you for being here, Scotty. And everybody's saying hello. Okay. Melinda says, this article makes me think of Venkman from Ghostbusters. Yeah, it does. It does. It sounds like something up Venkman's alley. He likes to study molds, spores, and fungus, which I like to study as well. Okay, so Melinda clarifies something in that abstract. She says power is also a statistical term. So statistics is a mathematical, I believe, a mathematical subject, and that's how we look at data and we basically make sense of data. A lot of times data is raw. Like let's say you go out and you just measure a bunch of frogs. I keep using frogs because they're so cute and I love frogs. But yeah, let's say you just measure a bunch of frogs and then you have a lot of data, but that is raw data. All you have is measurements. Well, if you want to get some kind of result out of them, you use statistics. And so it's a type of math you use to analyze your data. So power is a statistical term. Power equals the probability that a test of significance will detect a disparity from the hypothesis, if it exists. Wow. Let me take a drink of water before I tackle that one. All right. Basically, if you have a hypothesis, when you start an experiment, like let's say this frog experiment. Okay. So I start a frog experiment and I say, okay, because there's been global warming, my hypothesis is that there's colder temperature, so there's less insects for the frogs. So then I think that if I measure these frogs, they will be smaller than frogs from 30 years ago from the same pond. Let's say I have information, I have measurements from 30 years ago. I'm doing an experiment right now with water bears, tardigrades, little microscopic animals, and I have data from 40 years ago, and I have current data. So I actually want to do this with water bears. I want to compare them. But anyway, so your hypothesis is go into the pond. My hypothesis is that I'm going to measure these frogs, and they're going to be shorter, smaller. Their length is going to be smaller than the frogs were 30 years ago because global warming has made it so there's less insects and so there's less food. Okay, so basically, my hypothesis is that these frogs will be smaller, shorter than the frogs 30 years ago. Okay, so then you use statistics. You get your raw data, which are your measurements from 30 years ago, your measurements from today, and you go ahead and you use statistics, and then you try to find out the power, which means the probability that a test of significance. So yeah, so I'm going to run a test to see if I'm correct. Like, sorry, I hit some weird button. Okay, I think I'm good now. So I'm going to run a statistical test to see is there a significance difference between the size of these frogs? And then the power is whether that's true, whether a disparity from the hypothesis exists. That's basically what it means. Melinda, you can clean that up a little bit if you want to. Hey, Nina, thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy every time you're here. And great. Yeah, well, thank you for clearing that up, Melinda. But let's go ahead and dive back into the paper. Like I said, it sounds exciting so far. It sounds like this person has some evidence to show us. The other thing is that we might, after we finish this one, we might read some. I think I saw some other papers that came out after this one of other scientists that are like, hey, you know what? That one paper, totally wrong. And let me explain why they're wrong, which happens in science. So we might have to read both sides. Why some people say this is a good paper, some people say it's a bad paper. But so far, everything checks out. It's a good journal. It's a good university. It's written well. These papers have to pass what's called peer review. So you can't just publish it. What happens is you write your paper and you send it to the journal, and then the journal will send it to other scientists, and those scientists will grade. Basically, they'll review the paper, and they'll send you remarks. So if it's a bad paper, they'll say, hey, I don't think we should publish this paper. It's a bad paper. You're a bad scientist. Naughty. Or, more than likely they'll say like, you need to change this or this. I don't like this, or I don't like how the way you word this. But anyway, there's a process to get this published. So this paper had to go through some steps. Scientists had to look at it to accept it. That being said, let's go ahead and get back into paper. All right, slip on to reading classes. 30 minutes in. Glasses on. All right, here we go. All right, so I think this is just the introduction. Let's just see where it goes. All right. People in all walks of life have reported events that seem to violate the current common sense view of space and time. Boy, do they ever, right? I mean, that's basically everything we do on this channel is look at events that violate current common sense view of space and time. From dreams, to give you examples here, from dreams that seem to ostensibly predict a non-inferable. All right, here's some crazy words. I mean, crazy to me. This is vocabulary with wild trees. Okay, once again, I'm going to predict what ostensibly means. I think ostensibly means apparently. I think it means apparently. Ostensibly means apparently or purportedly. Yes. Okay, so yeah, it means apparently. It's just a fancy way of saying it. Okay. From dreams that seem to apparently predict a non-inferable. Okay, I believe non-inferable means like it's just something that you cannot perceive. It's something that you shouldn't be able to know, like the future, The future is ininferable. What did I just say? Am I drunk? The future is non-inferable because it's something you shouldn't be able to perceive. I mean, how would you be able to? Let's see what it says. Okay, survey says non-inferable means. Let's see. Let me add definition back here, or meaning. Here we go. Okay, non-inferable, not incurable. I shouldn't be having so much fun with this definition. Okay, non-inferable. Okay, let's just open this one. All right, non-inferable means. Oh, it better not tell me unable to infer, because that would suck. That's probably what it's going to tell me. Couldn't find a definition. That's weird. Why isn't there a definition for this word? Did they make up a word? All right, let's just look up inferable. Inferable. These are just words every day, These are SAT words that'll get you. Let's see. I don't want to buy a vacuum cleaner. Thank you. Worst dictionary ever. Do I have to agree for a cookie? Great. Well, I guess I'll have to cut all this stuff out later. Is it looking? Okay. Okay, inferable. That may be inferred or drawn as a conclusion. Okay. So non-inferable means something that may not be drawn as a conclusion. So let's translate this sentence. Okay. Dreams that seem to apparently predict something that cannot be drawn as a conclusion. This is funny. I'm just saying, basically what they're saying here is, what this guy's trying to say is like, some people have dreams where they see the future. That's all they're trying to say. Okay. So dreams that seem to apparently predict something that you should not be able to draw a conclusion, dramatic event. So dreams that show you a dramatic event, like Tina, for instance. Tina had a dream where she predicted a flooding in her condo. And that's exactly what they're talking about here. She should not have been able to infer that, but she did. To the more mundane assertion by a former prime minister of Sweden that he can sense when his wife is about to call him. Okay, so now here's a little, not a big example, but apparently the former prime minister of Sweden, he could just tell when his wife was about to call him. And, how is he doing that? In various surveys, majorities of respondents have endorsed a belief in such a phenomenon, which may have a noticeable impact on their lives. In the last few years, parapsychology or psi research has appeared in major psychology journals. Okay, so it's listing some research studies that have been done here. So there's one paper that was published in 2011, and 2 papers that were done in 2010. All right, so I did not know this, but yeah, apparently some psi research has been cropping up in psychology journals. I didn't know this. Okay, and comprehensive reviews of the evidence for and against psi have been published. Okay, so people have also been publishing, comprehensive means a big collection of all the evidence for and against psi, but no recent integration of current theories and evidence has been published. Okay, so but nobody's looked at all the theories and the evidence and published them in one paper. And that's what we're reading right now. Okay. Some psychologists have been at the forefront of producing supportive research and theory. Others have devoted much of their careers to criticizing the field, skeptics. Both stances can be explained by a psychologist's expertise on relevant processes, such as perception, memory, belief, consciousness, and non-conscious processes. However, many psychologists probably lack solid knowledge of the area. Yeah, I agree. Probably a lot of psychologists don't even dip their toes in the psi ability. An informed psi skeptic wrote, in quotes, most psychologists could reasonably be described as uninformed skeptics. A minority could reasonably be described as prejudiced bigots where the paranormal is concerned. Interesting. So, and here's the person, his name was French, his or her name, and they made this statement in 2001. You could read that paper if you go to the bottom. It shows you where in the works cited. But anyway, so this is a person who said this. This is a skeptic. Okay, this is someone who does not believe there's enough evidence for psi abilities. But he says that most psychologists could either be considered uninformed skeptics, so someone who's like, there's nothing there to it, yet they don't know, they haven't done their research, they don't really know anything about the subject, they're just saying there's no way it could be there. That's bad. And then they're saying there's even there's a minority or a really small amount of them that can be described as prejudiced bigots where the paranormal is concerned. So we know what a prejudiced bigot is when, race is concerned. But yeah, I think a lot of scientists in general can be considered prejudiced bigots where the paranormal is concerned. It is thus important to have an overview and discussion of the research and theory on the topic. So it's like, so he's saying like, look, because a lot of people are either bigots when it comes to the paranormal, or they just have no idea what's going on, it's really important that we have an overview and discussion about the research and the theory. Let's just get caught up, let's find out what is the current thinking. Let's become informed on the subject, which is what we're about to do. This article will A, introduce the domain of psi research. Good. B, discuss relevant theoretical frameworks from physics, psychology, and evolutionary theory. Okay, so they're talking about the theory or the explanations for psi. It looks like a lot of the foundations of this work is in physics, the study of motion, psychology, study of the mind, and evolutionary theory. That's very interesting. Evolutionary theory as well. I mean, that's how organisms change through time, basically, how living things change through time. So basically, it looks like the explanations for psi ability that we currently have as of 2018 rely on these 3 areas. And that's the psychology. Yeah, of course, I figured it had to do with the mind. Physics, I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah, I guess it makes sense. To me, if psi ability is real, it seems like it's a form of, wireless communication with the mind. And, when we use wireless communication with cell phones, that does involve physics. But this evolutionary thing, I wasn't aware of that. Maybe they're going to say Perhaps there's a reason evolutionarily in our past that we develop psi. Perhaps there's a purpose for psi. Perhaps psi ability allows us to live longer and have healthy children. Perhaps. C, review the recent and updated meta-analysis in the field. And D, provide guidelines for future research. Cool. All right. Now we're going to study the domain of psi research. It looks like we're going to have a little history lesson on what's going on with psi research. Check on the comments. We got Mr. Catfish in the room. Hey, Mr. Catfish. Oh, I forgot my glasses again. I got to go like this. Hey, Mr. Catfish, thank you so much for being here, buddy. I hope your job is going well. I hope you're getting lots of rest. Is this the word of the day? No, yeah. It's the word of the day. What was it again? Non-inferable. Non-inferable. Inferable means you're not able to... sorry, I got like a 100 thing. Not able to draw a conclusion. Well, inferable means you can draw a conclusion. And non-inferable means you can't draw a conclusion. That's funny. I don't want to call out women, but like a lot of times, I could say... Somebody could say, my girlfriend gets mad at me sometimes. It is very non-inferable. In other words, I have no idea why she's mad at me. There's no way for me to know. If you guys get in a fight with your spouse or your loved one, you could just be like, you're mad at me. You know what? It's very non-inferable right now. I wish you were a little more inferable with, your anger, because for the life of me, I cannot infer why you're angry. Let's see. Yeah, I think they made up non-inferable. Yeah, they just stuck a non in front of that inferable. But really, look, that sentence is funny because this guy did not need to say that. That sentence, all he had to say is like, sometimes people have vivid dreams about the future. And how do they know? That's what he's trying to say. Scientists will be science. Bobby Dizzle here. Bobby invited me to do a podcast recently, and it was very cool. We interviewed this guy who he's gifting and he's living with his Bigfoot, and he seems legitimate to me. Bobby has not released that podcast. If you're subscribed to his various social media, I think he's collecting a lot of them, and then he's gonna slowly release them once he's got a lot in the bank. But look for that one coming up, because that guy I asked him a lot of questions. I found out a lot about Bigfoot and living with Bigfoot, and I asked him, like, how big do you think Bigfoot groups are? I asked him about the community, the social structure, and I don't know, Bobby, have you still been talking to this guy? Anyway, Bobby says, not to change the subject, but what's on your shirt? Is it Harambe? Yeah, that's funny you should mention that. Yeah, I just found this shirt. My sister gave it for my birthday, earlier this year. But yeah, this is apparently, it's a Bigfoot, and it says, or a Sasquatch. It says Sasquatch Park. My sister was working, I think, in Colorado, or my sister's like a traveling nurse. And then at the very bottom, it's in Seattle. Yeah, so at the very bottom, it says Seattle, Washington. Yeah, my sister was working out of Seattle, which, I guess that's Bigfoot country. But thank you for pointing out that shirt. It's a brand new shirt. Just put it on. It's a birthday present. Melinda says, I think non-deductive would have been a better choice. Oh, yeah. I do like that. Non-deductive. Let's look up deductive. I know deductive is something that Sherlock Holmes is really into. I know you can't see the screen, but I'll just tell you what it says. So deductive is characterized by or based on inference of a particular instance from a general law. What is an example of deductive? A tarantula is a spider. Therefore, a tarantula has 8 legs. That is deductive reasoning. Okay? So you're like, all spiders have 8 legs. Somebody says a tarantula is a spider. So deductive reasoning is like, tarantula is a spider. I know all spiders have 8 legs. So tarantulas have 8 legs. Very cool. And then Bobby says, Bobby Dizzle says, you high-key hosted that for me, as was the plan. Well, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I had a good time. That guy's interesting. Well, does he like to live in the dark? He had this weird. I mean, I'm nothing against the guy, but like, he was like in a shadow. He like his room was all dark, and he complained because my screen was glitching out. But he seemed to have like a light thing, like a lighter version or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. All right, so let's go back and read about the history of psi phenomenon. This is all new to me. I'm glad to be reading this because I don't really, I just know people talk about I'm psychic, you're psychic. So it's good to have a little history lesson on the study of psi ability. So let's go ahead and see. Do I need to do this one? Yeah. Okay. Going back to the paper. Drink some more water. The domain of psi research. From the founding in 1882. Wow. The Society for Psychical Research on psi, has used or even developed scientific practices with the aim to, in quotes, examine with prejudice or prepossession the nature of these phenomenon. All right. Going back to the 1800s, what is prepossession? All right, let's play the game. Let's all try to guess what prepossession means and see if we're right. Prepossession means, wait, hold on. Let me see what it means. In a sentence, it says, they want to examine psi abilities with prejudice. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, now I'm sorry. Now it makes sense. Without prejudice or prepossession. I believe prepossession, it means you already have an idea of what is happening. And I think prejudice is the same thing. Like, so when they founded this organization, they're like, we want to be able to look at psi ability without having ideas already in our mind about what it means. Okay, so guys, put in what do you guys think prepossession means? I believe it means previously owning or having already owned an idea or a thought or an object. Prepossession means a preconceived opinion or a prejudice. Okay, what's going on with the 1800s? They're using the same word? I don't know. I mean, language changes, but yeah, basically, apparently a prejudice and a prepossession is the same thing in modern times. Interesting. Okay, so anyway, that's good. So they wanted to start this journal, and they're like, hey, no prejudice. Don't go into it with an open mind, which is how I look at the paranormal. I really go in with an open. I really don't think the evidence out there is strong enough to support that this paranormal stuff is real. At the same time, I don't think there's enough evidence to support that it's not real. I do suspect that some of the best evidence to support that it is real is probably being withheld, although I don't have any evidence for that. That's open on the subject. Just like these people that started the Parapsychological organization. Parapsychology can be defined as a study of purported psi phenomenon using the scientific method. And the Parapsychological Association, the professional association of the field, has been an affiliate of the American Association for the Advancement of Sciences, the world's largest general scientific society since 1969. Okay, that's good. Basically, they're saying that, the study of this organization, the study psi abilities, they're associated with a very legitimate scientific organization. Okay, psi typically includes two major areas. Number one, what used to be called extrasensory perception, or ESP. Yeah, I read ahead a little bit. So apparently ESP is not a correct term anymore. And number two, psychokinesis, or PK. Psychokinesis. I'm getting like real X-Men vibes right now, I believe a lot of X-Men have psychokinesis, or PK. Okay. So ESP includes purported telepathy, which means being affected by someone's thoughts or emotions, unmediated by the senses or logical inference, such as guessing more accurately than would be expected by chance who sends you an email unexpectedly. Okay. So they're saying okay. He's going to give a very technical, scientific definition of telepathy. So, okay, this first part's not that complicated. Being affected by someone's thoughts or emotions. Okay, so yeah, someone's thoughts or emotions are affecting you. Usually it's someone's words are affecting us, or their expressions, right? That's what affects us. We look at someone's face and we're like, oh, that guy's angry. Or they're happy, or they tell us something, their words or their emotions. But this is saying it's not that, it's their thoughts are affecting us. So unmediated by the senses or logical inference. Okay, yeah. So that's basically what I said. Yeah. So you're being affected by someone's thoughts, but that is not, it's not by the form of the senses. Like we're not seeing it, we're not smelling them, and it's not by logical inference. So we're not like thinking about it. We're not looking at their face and then, or thinking like, okay, logically, I just punched them in the face, so I think their emotions are anger. Such as, and here's an example of telepathy: guessing more accurately than would be expected by chance who sends you an email unexpectedly. Okay, so one really lame form of telepathy is that you're able to guess, who's going to send you an email unexpectedly. But this is important: more accurately than would be expected by chance. So, there's a number out there. If you just guess who's going to send me an email unexpectedly, there's a number out there that's like how often you would guess that just normally by chance. But if you're able to do this more accurately, then that would be a form of telepathy. Okay, so that's good. I think I understand. This is an important term going forward. This is what telepathy is. Okay, being affected by someone's thoughts or emotions. Okay, now next one is clairvoyance. These are fancy words. I've seen these words before. Okay, clairvoyance is obtaining information about a distant state of affairs, unmediated by the senses or logical inference. Once again, you're not. So you're getting information about something that's going on far away. So, for instance, I could tell what's happening in a foreign country. Like I could tell that there is a sale for video games going on in this Japanese store. But it's not because of my senses. I'm not looking at the store. I'm not reading about it. Okay, and yeah, an example is remote viewing, in which someone accurately describes details of a place chosen at random by someone else. Yeah. So remote viewing is, you're able to just look at something far away, and someone randomly tells you that area. Okay, so we have telepathy and clairvoyance. Okay, so one of them is the telepathy is you're being affected by a human's thoughts or emotions. Clairvoyance is you're getting information about something far away that's happening, like remote viewing. Okay, I got it. I think that makes sense. Now, there's precognition and presentiment. All right. Being affected by an event is this a typo, or do I not know how to read? Okay. Being affected by an event taking a place, I think that's a typo, taking place in the future that could not have been foreseen, as in dreaming about planes crashing against a tall building the night before 9/11, or what happened to Tina, where she saw the condo become flooded. Now, it's interesting they say this 9/11 thing. This is what happened to me. I believe I had precognition or presentiment on 9/11. Maybe you guys did too. What happened to you guys on 9/11? This is what happened to me, okay? 9/11, I was like a freshman in college. I had my alarm clock on, and my alarm clock was set to a radio station. Okay, so right before I woke up, I had a dream where I was in a building, and the building was on fire, and everybody was screaming in pandemonium. It was just like a disaster in a building. I couldn't tell what building it was. I don't know what the hell was going on. And it was just a weird random dream. Okay. And then as soon as I wake up, my alarm goes off, and the first thing I hear, very first thing from that radio station is the radio DJ says, a second plane has just hit the World Trade Center. So I don't know, is it a coincidence, or was I having a dream about the 9/11 accident or disaster before I even knew about it? Very bizarre. Okay, so that is precognition or presentiment. And then now there's another thing called retrocognition. Okay, having non-inferable knowledge about a past event. Oh, okay, this is interesting. So yeah, you have So instead of being able to see what's happening in the future when you shouldn't be able to, this is being able to see what happened in the past without being able to. Okay, cool. Now it says ESP is a misleading term because it suggests perception as the mediating mechanism. Yeah, because it means extrasensory perception. But they're saying that it's misleading because, it's suggesting that you're using perception as the mechanism. Perception, once again, when you perceive something, I believe you perceive something with your eyes, your vision, your touch, your ears, your smell. But they're saying that, that's not necessarily true. Although few, if any, psi researchers nowadays assume this is to be the case. Okay, so yeah, that's why we don't use ESP, because not a lot of psi researchers believe that perception is what's causing these psi abilities. Furthermore, the distinction among these phenomena is a function of how they are tested or considered rather than of different mechanisms. Furthermore, the distinction among these phenomena, okay, so that he's saying, okay, the way we could tell the difference between all these different phenomena, retrocognition, telepathy, presentience, the way we could tell them apart is a function of how they are tested. Okay, so that depends, the way we tell them apart depends on how we test for them or considered, or how we consider them rather than of different mechanisms. Okay, interesting. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. Okay, so examples labeled as clairvoyance could also be considered as telepathy, and both of them could be subsumed under precognition, because someone at some point in the future will find out that information. Okay, so I guess he's saying that these things can all mix together. They blend together, and furthermore, perhaps the mechanism means like, what's going on, what is actually happening, like physically, what is happening, like how does the engine work? We know the engine works, but how is the piston working? How is the spark plug lighting the gas? For psi, that's what mechanism is. So it's saying that the way we tell these things apart isn't by the mechanism, isn't by what's going on under the engine, but it's the way we could tell them apart is by how we test for them and how we consider them. Okay, so that makes sense. And then they go on to say that a lot of these things, they blend in together. One thing can be another thing. All right, the term anomalous cognition will be used in this article. Okay, so I think now they're going to use anomalous cognition. This author is going to use that as a blanket term to talk about all these different psi abilities, which that's cool. To keep things from not being so confusing. Okay, PK, or psychokinesis, refers to punitive direct action of mental events, e.g., or for example, I got it, intention. Okay, on physical objects. Okay, punitive. What does punitive mean? Okay, let's guess what punitive means, everybody. What do you think punitive means? To me, it sounds like a punishment, but I don't know what it means. Okay, so what it actually means is generally considered or reputed to be. Okay, the punitive author of the book. Okay, so what is generally considered to be is punitive. So I could say that cat over there, that's that's my punitive cat. In other words, that cat is considered to be my cat. I'm sorry. Okay, so wait, what does it mean again? Considered to be. Okay, so the considered to be direct action of mental events. Oh, okay. So psychokinesis, or PK, is what is considered to be. Oh, okay. So what he's saying is that PK is what's considered to be direct action of mental events on physical objects. Okay, now it makes sense. So what he's saying, PK is basically like, these are thought to be actions that are happening on physical objects like moving objects, but they're being caused directly by your brain, basically. Or, for example, your intention, your thoughts. What do you want to happen? Now, it is unmediated by muscular or indirect mechanical activity. So, what this means is that if you're having, this is what I would love to have some PK ability. I don't know what I could do with it. I'd probably think of something stupid, but being able to move objects with my mind, basically. But yeah, the definition is very technical, saying you're able to move things with your mind, but you're not using your muscles or your arms or your foot, your tongue, whatever muscle, and you're not doing it by indirect mechanical activity. So, it's not a machine that's doing it for you. It's literally just your thoughts. That is what PK refers to. Remember, putative means considered or reputed to be. So how can we use this with in everyday life? Let me see. How can I use putative to impress my friends? Okay, so your roommate. Here we go. Your roommate. You're talking to your roommate. You're angry. You're like, look, I'm missing a sandwich. This sandwich is my putative sandwich, and I believe you took it. Or you're saying. So your roommate is like eating your food or something, and you're like, did you know that sandwich was putative? that I'm the putative owner of that sandwich. I don't like that word. There is macro psychokinesis or anomalous force. Okay. An effect on observable objects such as a table levitating without any apparent mechanical explanation, and micro psychokinesis or anomalous perturbation, an effect on small unobservable events such as mentally affecting the output of a random number generator that otherwise produces random outputs. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so there's two types of psi ability. There's macro right here. Macro, I believe, if you ever see the word macro in front of something, it means large scale. So that means that means large scale. So yeah, you're moving something like a table, something physical. You're levitating it. Now, micro means small, and it's saying like you're having a small effect on something that's unobservable. So it's not physical. It's like you're changing a random number generator. So there's machines out there. I heard you could do this with software, but I was reading somewhere that the software random number generators aren't actually real. They're not a true random number generator. You should really use a machine. Anyway, there's a machine out there, and all it does is it makes random numbers. It just spits out random numbers, maybe like in a little screen. But if you're showing micro psychokinesis, you should be able to change it so it's instead of giving random numbers, it gives non-random numbers. Like you can make it make a pattern, or you could tell it what random number to give. That's interesting. Some psi researchers study the possibility of consciousness surviving death. Okay, yeah. I have no evidence, but I don't know. I think that consciousness does survive death. I'm not afraid of death. If I'm on my deathbed or I'm aware that I'm about to die, which has happened to me before, I've gotten lost in the woods and I've been stuck in some quicksand type material. Anyway, the way I look at death, if I see it coming, I'm not going to be scared. I'm going to be like, look, I'm about to start a cool vacation somewhere I've never been, because I just think something's going to happen. I think my consciousness will survive death, including studies of children who spontaneously report information about a past life to which neither they or those close to them apparently had access. Yeah, I've heard about this. There's a lot of children out there that say that they, died before, they had a previous life, and they give details. But who knows? I mean, somebody did a study on that. Two people, Mills and Tucker are their last names. They did that study in 2015. Interesting. We could read more about that later. That might be a good paper to read later. My idea on these kids is like, do they just have active imaginations? I'm not trying to be prejudiced here, but this paper, these guys and gals, whoever they are, Mills and Tucker, they go into more detail. But which have also been interpreted as examples of anomalous cognition rather than survival. Oh, interesting. So some people say that these kids who are reporting these past lives, they're saying like, well, maybe they're not spontaneously reporting a past life. Maybe that's not what these children are doing. Maybe they're actually having some psi ability. They're being able to look at the past, and it's not really them surviving death. Interesting. I've never heard that as an alternate explanation. Okay. Both descriptive and experimental approaches can be employed to evaluate psi phenomenon. Okay, so he's saying that descriptive is basically what it means. You describe something, you're like, okay, you write down what someone says, or you look at a frog, going back to frogs. Oh, this frog is green, dark green, it's got a loud call, that's describing something. And experimental is where, you conduct an experiment, you design an experiment around it. Now, it's saying that when you study psi phenomenon, you could use both. You could just describe it, like someone can tell you the story, like these children can tell you what they're remembering, or you could conduct an experiment. Those are both two ways of studying psi phenomenon. At its inception, psychology and parapsychology were not clearly distinct disciplines. I didn't know that. So in the very beginning, these things were studied together. Regular psychology and parapsychology, okay? And foundational figures of the former means the previous, of psychology, also supported the latter, okay? So back when people first started studying psychology, they also studied parapsychology, and they weren't two separate things. Okay, here are some scientists who did this, and oh my God, I'm going to butcher these names. I'll try my best. I'm sorry, scientists, for not being able to pronounce your names, but these scientists include Terev, Hans Berger, inventor of the Electroencephalogram. I gotta find out what this is. What is an electro? Let's try to guess. Okay, electro, I think, means electricity. Encephaly. What does encephaly mean? I'm gonna guess it's an electric machine for your throat. It's an electrical device that goes in your throat. Well, let's find out what it really is. All right, so this guy invented, it's a test actually, a test or record of brain activity. Oh, okay. I had okay. So I was wrong. Interesting. Oh, it's an EEG. Oh, it's an EEG. I'm more familiar with the EEG. Okay. Anyway, so basically, Hans Berger is the inventor of the EEG, and he also believed in, parapsychological ideas. Binet, Fechner, Sigmund Freud, Luria, Ramon E. Cajal, and American Psychological Association presidents William James and Gardner Murphy. More recently, faculty from top-rated universities such as Harvard, Princeton, and Stanford, including a past APA president, endorse continuing research on psi. So that's interesting. I did not know this, but in the beginning of psi research, a lot of high-level scientists, they were down for studying it. They did not have this bigoted prejudice against this paranormal subject. And in modern times, scientists from Harvard, Princeton, and Stanford, these are, I believe they're all American universities, they endorse or support continuing to study psi abilities. Interesting. Okay. Parapsychology has also contributed to methods and subject areas later integrated into psychology. Among them, the first use of randomization, along with systematic use of masking procedures. Okay. The first comprehensive use of a meta-analysis. Oh, the first time a meta-analysis was used. Okay. In 1940. The study pre-registration since 1976. And pioneer contributions to the psychology of hallucinations, eyewitness reports, and dissociative and hypnotic phenomena. Okay. Very cool. And then here it's going to start talking about psi phenomenon and physics theories. I think now it's going to talk about what's going on under the engine. How does it actually work? Which is, like I said earlier, that's what I'm really interested in. All right, let's go check on everybody. How's everybody doing? Whew. All right. Yeah. So yeah, Melinda says I'm thinking of punitive. And what was the word I was? I was thinking of punitive, but what was that word? Hold on a second. I think we looked it up earlier. So I was thinking of punitive, but the word was putative. Oh, it's so similar. Okay. Yeah, putative means generally considered or reputed to be. Okay, so yeah. Putative means, it's considered to be this. Punitive with an N is what I was thinking about. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. And then Melinda, once again, she already knew what the EEG was. All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, I think it's been an hour and 10 minutes. It's going to be another longish paper, but I think I'll cut it short here. I think on a Thursday I'm going to try to do a stream as well, and I'm just going to play a video game called Limbo. I figured out how to hook up my Xbox, and yeah, I just want to play video games, and we could chat about anything going on, and we could just hang out and relax if you're bored, or you could just watch it later. We could talk about any subject. That's fine. I guess I'm going to try maybe next week, next Tuesday. I think I might try to start the first entomology class. There's a website I found where you could download textbooks. So if you want to get a textbook on entomology, the study of insects, email me at wild7trees@gmail.com, and I will send you a link to get the textbook. It's a very recent textbook, and you can just read along. That's the textbook I'm going to use to make my slides. But yeah, I will be teaching a class on entomology. It'll be fun. We'll just be talking about insects, and it'll be a college level course. I mean, that's how I'm going to try to teach it. And I think it'll just be fun. And yeah, we could just have fun and learn about science. And then if you go through this course, I think, you'll have a much better understanding of biology and where I'm from. And then we could go into deeper discussions, and we could ask better questions. And I just think it'll be fun. I mean, insects are everywhere in the world. Who doesn't like insects? Melinda says, great paper. So far, awesome choice to read. Thank you. It is a good paper. I will say it's written very well. I mean, all right, there's a lot of words that perhaps don't need to be used, but apart from that, it flows really well. It is easy to understand, and I do like the paper. I do like the way it's structured. This is a good author. Mr. Catfish says Warzone. Yeah, you know what? I think I've been selling a lot of copies of Warzone. I sell a lot of copies of Warzone, so maybe I will do some Warzone. But I don't know. Maybe I need to start off small, because I'm not really so. Mr. Catfish is a video gamer, and he likes to play Call of Duty, which is a first-person shooter. Bam, 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 and it's a lot of times it's multiplayer. So you go online and you play against other people, and you just shoot each other full of holes. But I'm not that good at competitive multiplayer, but I'll give it a try. I think I might still have a copy of Warzone. It's selling. It's a very popular game right now. It's selling a lot. But what I do have is a copy of this one right here. Maybe I'll play this one first, just to get my, get my sea legs. But I have a copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, just to get started. But thank you for the suggestion. And yeah, Mr. Catfish is, pretty nice. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Scotty B says, please put your email in chat. Okay, yeah, I'll do that right now. I'll do it right now for anybody. Wild, you guys can email me for anything. Me and Melinda have a nice conversation going. We email about episodes or about articles or whatever. But so yeah, if you want to email me, you just want to chat, or you want to go over, you want to tell me about some paranormal things, or you have ideas for topics, let me know. And currently, right now, next week, I'm going to try to start a college level course on insects. And if you email me, I will tell you where to go to get this textbook. It's a PDF on your computer. It's for free. And you could read along with me, just like a regular college class. But you don't have to do that. You could just look at the slides. And let me go ahead and share this. So yeah, my email is wild7trees@gmail.com. And that is where you can find me. Thank you for that suggestion, Scotty B. But yeah, guys, thank you for being here. If you have any questions or comments, always put them in the comments for this video, and we will continue this paper, and we'll see where it takes us. I've already learned a whole bunch. So thanks. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. And yeah, take care. Have a good week. See you on Thursday. Bye.